I call this meeting to order. Please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, the only item on the agenda is approval, disapproval of request for proposal number 14/15-2P, community promotions. Alex, did you want to say anything about this process?
Mayor and Council, this is the regular process that we pretty much go through every year. $200,000 is budgeted for the allocation this year, the same as last year. We have seen a slight increase, but I wanted to be a little bit conservative in the allocation. And as you know, throughout the year, we do work on other projects that aren't done through this process. With that, you've got the enclosed recommendations, and it's up to you how you decide to award them. There are some things I do want to talk about real quick before you move forward on the award. Last year, you made some requirements that we have reporting, semi and annual, and the final reporting once the funding is completed. There are some entities that have not done their final report, even though they have been reimbursed all of their funds. So if you do award those ones, I'd request that you, as a condition of this next award, that you require that they submit the final report from last year.
Excellent.
Just to clarify, Mr. Brown, is the final report the second report? Or is it in addition to the first and second report?
It's in addition, because you put dates on the two reports.
Right, but we don't have a sheet that tells us who submitted final report and who hasn't.
I would just ask that you make it a condition of the award that we get that final report. We don't have a sheet right now of who has or hasn't, because there are a couple entities who have not submitted for their final reimbursement, because they haven't even had their event yet. So we could just apply that to any entity that has not submitted, and so we can withhold their purchase order to move forward until we get that report. We can do that internally.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
With that said, we have a Lodgers Tax Advisory Board who meets and goes through the proposals and makes a recommendation. Would anybody from the advisory board want to report on that?
Is this a mic?
No, it would be right there.
Okay.
And just press the button and it'll turn red.
I guess I'm on. We found that for the most part the applications were very well done. Each year we see a little more professionalism, a little more information that we need rather than just information, and so we felt it was relatively straightforward to make recommendations. And we did make comments on everyone's application, which I hope that the groups will avail themselves of. In some years past, I haven't always seen it, and we make suggestions and things like that. So I hope everybody gets a spreadsheet that has our comments on it. That would be all I would have to say. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Benson.
Mayor and Mr. Brown, were the Lodgers Tax Committee given the reports like the council was? The first and second reports? Yes. Reviews, so they weren't?
No, they weren't given the reports.
Okay.
It was just asked for the council and staff.
Okay.
We actually went through the minutes to make sure. It was just requested that it was given to the staff and the council.
Okay, thank you. Okay. That might be something to think about in the future. Okay, thank you.
I'm going to go ahead and pass out these recommendations if the public wants to look at them.
Is there any other questions for Alex or the advisory board? Councilor Cano?
At some point, are we going to have a chance to say something to the people that have I have like a blanket statement. I wouldn't necessarily want to direct it at one person in particular, but I had some issues with these in general, and I wanted to bring those up at some point.
Would be an appropriate time to bring that up right now.
Okay. Okay, so my comments are not directed at all of you, because some of you did a really, really good job with your the things that you submitted, but some of you didn't. And I'm not going to name names because that would be kind of rude, but I don't know if I just happened to get the last one that you worked on, but there were some that didn't put them in the right order, some that had, and we give you the direct order of in what order they're supposed to be. Some people couldn't punch holes correctly, so they're falling apart. I'm missing documents in some of them. Some of them were handwritten. If you're going to handwrite it, at least please print it so it's easier to read. And I mean, you're asking for a lot of money, so if you could put some effort into it, I would appreciate that. And some of the people these did not put much effort into it, whereas some of you did an excellent job, and I'm just amazed by the amount of work that you did put into it. So that I appreciate. But the ones that didn't do that, if you could please work on that, because most of you, actually all of you except one, have submitted something before, and so you know what the process is, so there shouldn't be a problem with doing that. Thank you.
Did you have?
I do have some questions.
Councilor Bredesen?
Okay. Thank you, Mayor. I have a question. Is there anybody here from Zia Rides? Could you approach the podium, and you'll have to turn on the little white thingy, and so it glows red.
Hello.
Hi, okay. Could you state your name?
Yeah, my name's Martin Pearson, and I'm not directly from Zia Rides. Seth is actually putting an event on right now in Albuquerque, so we're here on his behalf from the Gila Hike and Bike. We worked with them this year to put on the Tommyknocker event in February, which is what they're applying for money for next year.
Correct. So, did you see what they've submitted? So
Yes,
you can answer
I read
this?
through it
Okay.
today. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. In the race budget, you state that it's $2,500 that for large tax funding, and I'm going to say you because you're representing them.
Right.
But the actual request on the front page was $3,000.
Yeah,
Which is the correct number?
I have no idea.
Okay. And then, just some things you might want to take back to them, just some clarification. I would say that everyone did this year with the one exception, which happens to be Zia Rides, and it may be the first time, since it's the first time
It was
they've
the first time
applied.
they've applied, yeah.
But matching funds are what they say they are, which is registration, sponsorship, anything like that. And that was left blank, yet they explained that, and they're obviously matching funds to put this race on.
Okay.
So this is something that over the years, I would say everyone that has applied over the years knows and understands what matching funds are.
Okay.
And then the other thing that's really critical is in-kind gives you points, and I mean internally in my head, and I think it actually states that on the RFP, that in-kind is good, especially in a situation like this where there's Gila Hike and Bike is working with them. I mean, it's not really represented in, I would just kind of ask them to think about that in the future, to come back. I have another question that hopefully you can answer.
Yeah, hopefully.
I'm going to keep asking them until I get through them. In the budget, it has a donation to trails. So my question, as someone who hikes occasionally out there, is this to a trails group that will go through and put the trails back in working order after the Tommyknocker, or is this something that the Zia Rides actually make sure that it goes back to a condition where everyone can use it, not just the folks that are doing the Tommyknocker ride?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think that seeing, and it doesn't seem that this would be the case oftentimes when you think that there are going to be, couple of hundred mountain bikers riding through a trail system for an event, you would think that that would have a pretty negative effect on the systems, and what ends up happening is completely the opposite. After the event, we help them do this year, and it's something that happens after every event. You go back, you take the flagging down, you make sure there's no litter, and what you end up finding is that the lines that were ridden for the event are in a lot better shape than they were before, and oftentimes the trails are easier to hike or ride, or however people are going to use them afterwards. My guess, and I don't know this for sure, I'd be happy to find this out, is that Zia Rides take responsibility for making sure that that money goes back into projects that benefit trail systems. I don't think that money is going to get used to directly go back and fix the Tommyknocker course, say, for example, because after the event it's not going to need fixing. It's actually in great condition, and it's, like I say, it's clean, and it's ready for whoever's going to use it after.
Yeah, I'm going to beg to differ on that, because over the years, I've lived here for quite some time, I know that there have been concerns from hikers in the past about certain trails that have been ridden, in an event that have really destroyed the trail. So I think that when we're talking about in-kind, if that's what Tommyknocker's doing, they're going out and they're making, the group that's doing it is Zia Rides, is making sure, along with Hila Hike and Bike, that the trails are being groomed, making sure that they're back in an order where folks can take their puppies and horses and stuff out. That I think that's an in-kind contribution that would enhance the proposal.
Definitely. And I think in their defense this year, the two major hiking systems out in Fort Bayard, be the Dragonfly Trail and the Big Tree Trailhead, were avoided as much as possible so that people could still use them, and they weren't ridden for this event. So they're definitely trying to look to.
So just a few quick little things. And yes, it is specific to you, just because it's the first time that the group has submitted this, is that please do answer the questions as presented, to actually address them, and that's one of the, after being on the council since 2009, that's why we've changed our lodger's tax RFP. We want people to answer those questions. We want them to address them. We want them to tell us why the event that's being suggested is a good idea. And then also the same with advertising. Advertising is just not about the event, but it's also about long-term revisiting and promoting of the area. And that's something that in the current presentation of what they would do for the Tommyknocker doesn't grab me, that's anything but really, in some instances, for Zia Rides, because they promote 5 races across the state. And what is so special about coming to this race in Silver if you can't make the other 4?
It disappointed me to read it today. I didn't have as much say as I would have liked in the way that it was written, but certainly what we saw this year is, because people that sign up people generally don't do a race in this series, they do them all. And so the advantage of the series is, having an event on the calendar, you've got people that are going to come and they're going to do this one just because it's part of the series. And I think that's a really great feature of the series, and it's nice to have an event in their calendar because it's going to bring people, and that wasn't written in there at all. So
Okay. So I would encourage them to work with Hila Hike and Bike next year, if they plan to resubmit and to submit next year. But I would also encourage them to think a little bit more broadly, because I have to admit, this is the first time I've ever heard of it, and this is the one in February in 2016 would be the second one, and I've never even heard of it before. So
one of the bigger things this year is next for the 2016 events, working with the Forest Service to get the area permitted, because they didn't know how many people were going to come this year. They permitted the start-finish area, and then we just had people use the trail networks. And I think, having it be a lot more official, we've got word from the Forest Service that they're going to support the event next year and actually help to make sure the whole thing's permitted and signed and advertised properly. I think it's exciting, because this year was a bit of a test to see if people were actually going to come, and they did, and everybody that came had a good time. So.
Okay, well, thank you.
All right.
Thank you. I don't know if anyone else has questions. You do? Okay. I do have one. Just give me a sec. Gotta figure out. Yeah, I released that.
Are we not going to go this time? What are we doing?
Well, I just,
For the first time, we had everybody present. That was new. We've been honing the RFP process a little bit better so that the RFP is the presentation. And to have them reiterate their presentation is not necessary. But if there's any of those that you want to hear them elaborate on, I can give you the floor, and you can ask any one of those organizations to explain, present orally their RFP. And at the end, I will allow any of the organizations to present if they want to. But at this point, we're just going to be asking questions, or if you want them to articulate, we'll have them articulate.
if Councilor Kano has someone, wait.
Go ahead, Mike. Sure.
Thank you. Councilor Betson.
Thank you, Mayor. Actually, can I have someone from, thank you. Can I have someone from Main Street?
Councilors, staff, Lodgers Tax Committee, and the public. I'm Lucy Whitmarsh, and I'm the Executive Director of the Silver City Main Street.
Thank you, Lucy. I have a few questions for you. Could you explain to me the interpretive signage that you have incorporated into here? They seem to be fairly lightweight plaques, is that correct?
Correct. We did ask for a pricing estimate from a vendor that recommended what we were trying to promote, which is to develop some interest in the buildings. We wanted to have something that could be attached to a building without causing problems with the historic building. And so this is the recommendation that we had for the from a vendor to use that lightweight material.
Do you know the lifespan of these signs?
It should be pretty much permanent. There shouldn't be any deterioration.
Because I know that in the past that there's been an individual that has actually said that he would be happy to make these in granite and donate them. So the question is whether or not you had any interaction and any consideration of that, because he's actually said that in a number of meetings I've been in.
Oh, well, I wasn't aware of that, but we certainly can look into that and use that as an alternative. That would be really, really beneficial if we were able to have it donated.
Okay, and then I guess if you could elaborate a little bit on the matches that you are incorporating into the different sorts of things you're doing. I think in particular I'm interested in the match for the downtown guide because it states that the Silver City Main Street will gather the information, included the guide, and that's the match. Is the match that you're providing in any way, shape, or form part of the funding that's provided to Main Street and what we did in the resolution? Was it last week? So
it's an in-kind contribution, and it's a combination of Main Street volunteers and staff time to organize it. So I guess that would be a combination of both of those things, but I think it should be called an in-kind contribution.
Okay. And so, I think in one of them, and several of them, you list a event coordinator at $1,500. Is that for each event or in total?
It would be for the Taste of Downtown and for the Lighted Christmas Parade, and those are our two major events that I mentioned in this proposal.
So would the Main Street's funding cover that expense of hiring someone to be the event coordinator? Or is that from lodger's tax directly that you're requesting a salary payment?
Well, actually, what we've had in the past are specific contracts for events, and yes, it would be, this request is that it would come from lodger's tax funding to have those event coordinators.
Okay. Mr. Brown, I understand that according to our lodger's tax ordinance and in the state, we cannot pay salaries. Is that not correct?
Not salaries to coordinate an event.
Correct. That's what I thought. So I just wanted to clarify that. And then I have actually one question that kind of goes for a couple of events. Does the town supply the porta potties for events?
Yes, we do.
And we do that separate from...
Well, yes, that's part of the funding that I keep aside, so that I can, depending on the size of the event, so you don't just allocate a flat $5,000 to Main Street for all their events. I can do it by event, depending on what the size is. But yes, there's a few events that, a few events.
Oh,
that,
my goodness.
we take care of the porta potties outside of these allocations.
So if it's actually requested as part of the allocation, it's something that the town's already covering, correct? In most cases.
In most cases, especially the large ones. Actually, the tour we didn't.
Okay.
The Blues Festival we did. It just depends on, some of them we do and some of them we don't.
But we do we cover them for Main Street? The Main Street events that...
No, we haven't.
don't, okay. I just, point of clarification. Okay.
Historically, we have been providing the sanitary facilities for specific events through Main Street.
Okay. Thank you. That's all the questions I have for Main Street. I don't know if anyone has any more.
I just have a clarifying question to Mr. Brown. Maybe it's just the accountant in me. Is a independent contractor service fee, that's considered a salary as an employee, or is it?
No, it's considered an independent contractor.
So an independent, that's the same as a salary for an employee, or is that different from a salary to an
That's
employee?
different from a salary.
So lodger's tax can pay an independent contractor service fee.
Service fee, but it has to fall under the guidelines of what can be used, lodger's tax can be used.
Okay. That fee has to be
To
identified.
advertise, for tourism advertisement, to operate a tourism facility. It does not say...
So it's very, not to do the labor.
Not to do the labor of organizing an event. That's
Okay.
the job of the event organizer.
Perfect. Thanks, sir. Do you have any other questions? Councilor Cano?
Ms. Carrillo had her hand up first.
Senator?
Well, a couple things. I think, first of all, that part of the RFP, and I'm going to sort of give Lucy a lifesaver here, the Main Street, the events coordinator is under their general budget, and we ask for two things when we ask for budgets. We ask for a general budget of the organization to make sure that they're financially viable. And then we ask for a budget more specific, which we want to see more specifics on, of the event or whatever it is they're asking us to support. So I think that events coordinator actually doesn't come under their largest tax request. It actually just is explaining what their general budget looks like. But on the other hand, I had some real concerns about the banners that they were thinking of getting, which I thought were very attractive. And I also wanted to say that the garlands, I think they're quite, they look very nice on the old-fashioned streetlights with the bows, but somebody really has to work on getting those cleaned up. I think it looks worse to have 2 or 3 of them out and you drive down the street. Most of them are lit and then some of them aren't, and I think that looks sort of tacky, and the bows need to be redone. But I think it's a nice decoration, but you can't let it go by and be just sort of grungy looking instead of making it look nice. So, but I did want to make that comment that I think that that's where the events coordinator is under the general budget rather than what? But no, Cynthia?
Thank you. Yes, it is listed under the expenses for 2014-2015 operating budget. It just has Main Street Events Coordinator for $1,500, but when you look at the breakout for the budget summary under lodger's tax expenses and what the discussion is and what I just asked Ms. Whitmarsh, clearly, like under the Taste of Downtown, radio advertising expenses $700. They have edible baja for $1,000, and the event coordinators included in the list that would be for lodger's tax, since lodger's tax funding request is $3,200.
Okay,
Yeah, so it is. Yes, I see it in 2 different places, but I was going by the narrative and then the total amount that was requested for each event. And that's why I asked the specific question about, is it for each event? Yeah.
I didn't drill down that far. I just know. I saw where it fell into the tree. Right, that's what you do.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. And we also thought that we had some concerns about the Taste of Downtown going to 6 days. We thought that was stretching things a bit and questioned whether or not the local restaurants had been on board with that. So that was another one of our questions. Whether we have an answer or not, I don't know. Okay.
Councilor Connor?
Representative from the San Vicente Arias. No, okay, well, you can move on then, I guess.
Councilor Bedison?
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to ask Sandra about a little bit about, so we don't have someone from San Vicente Artists, because it appears that Councilor Khanna and I might have some of the same questions. So one of the recommendations that you stated was for the San Vicente Artists and the Red Dot. Well, the Silver City Arts Association, excuse me, I always go toward the easy thing, the Red Dot. But to combine their efforts so that there's really only, the committee suggested that there's only one guide.
Right.
So unfortunately, we don't have someone here that we can talk to from San Vicente Arts, but we do have someone from the Silver City Arts Association. But let me, if I could, before we ask you to talk, close, can I ask the committee to elaborate a little bit more, if they would, on their recommendation, and then have you, or it's just flat out the recommendation?
Well, I think this was coming. I think last year we saw two art guides, and we felt that only one was, that's enough for a small town, and they shouldn't be so divided. And my understanding is this is more inclusive than the San Vicente one. And then you also have commented on the application process from the San Vicente people, et cetera, et cetera. So I think we just felt that this was better representation. And if you're going to pick one, this would be the one that we would pick. And I think you have to. I don't think there should be two of them out there going to various places and such like that. I just think it's a duplication of effort, it's a duplication of largest tax money, and we don't have enough of that to be duplicated. So that was our general sense.
Mayor, if I could ask Lois Duffy to come up, because I want to ask her a question.
Okay.
Thank you. So, Lois, my question to you, and you can elaborate afterwards, is how many of your members are also members of San Vicente Artists?
Well, I don't know what the current San Vicente membership is. We do have 74 members now. We have 27 galleries, 23 studios, and 24 independent artists. I'm sure some of those independent artists, I'm just not sure which ones belong to San Vicente.
Okay. Well, I just want to make a statement that, like many of the folks that have submitted, I am completely impressed by your advertising. I mean, everybody is doing a great job, and you go above and beyond, because it appears to me, and I may be incorrect, that all the money that you spend is only on the advertising, not on the pamphlet, not on the...
Well, that was last year's. We now have this new one, which I passed out, which we just got a couple of days ago. That's why we're requesting a little bit more to help us cover that. And we can cover one or the other, either our events or the guide with our membership dues, but we just can't cover both.
Okay.
All right.
Is there anything you want to elaborate?
Well, we already have discussed, I haven't discussed it with the president of San Vicente or what their plans are, but we can accommodate San Vicente very easily into this guide, or, you know, as a separate group, a separate series of pages if they want. We do have the Grant County Art Guild on board. We have the Arts Council has a half page, the Arts and Cultural District. We can accommodate any art group that wants to be in it. That's what we want to do. We can just figure out a price per page, and you know, they can keep their own entity but be in the guide.
Great.
So.
Thank you.
Any more questions?
No, go ahead.
Councilor Bedison?
Sorry, I apparently do this a lot. I monopolize the question period, but do we have anyone from Copper Country Cruisers here? Okay. Gentlemen, I have a simple question for you, if you'd come to the podium. Or whoever is the one who's representing the group. So, one of the questions I have is directly related to something that was discussed earlier about the actual submission of reports. And is there any information you can provide to me as to why we didn't receive the first and second reports from your group?
As the vice president, the answer is no. Only because the president was supposed to be here, but he didn't get back from Albuquerque in time.
Okay. Yeah, because I know that while it's not stated in the RFP, which might be something to do in the future, it was in the letter that was sent to all lodgers tax recipients last year that was a requirement. And I'm one of those folks that thinks that if we've put that in and everybody else has done it, that there needs to be a little bit of ramification or at least desire to get things rectified so that it is done. Just because everyone else, that submitted, at least again this year, did do that, and it's kind of like, they did it, and it's just, if there was some sort of illness or something that maybe created a situation where it couldn't be completed, that would be helpful to know.
Well, I could probably make up a story, but it wouldn't sound good.
You're very honest, and I appreciate that.
Work in state government. I do have a question, since I am up here. Under the comment, it says, keep doing what you're doing, yet there was a $500 drop in the request. Is there a reason for that?
Well, that would be a question for the budget board, but, and feel free
Right, I
to,
can answer that. It's partly because we had limited amount of money, so we went through, the way we do is we go through and we give everybody what we wish they could give them, and then we go through, because we've now spent way more, and we cut everybody back a little bit. And that's basically it. We also had some concern, there was some concern expressed by some of the members of the committee that essentially we're giving you the money that you raised for your scholarships. So your profit is pretty much matches what we give you for.
What was that confirmed? That was just...
Well, in your budget, you'll have $2,500, and that's what you give for scholarships, and that's what you were asking. So that affected it to a certain extent, but it was more we just had to, everybody had to sort of take a hit in order to meet the $200,000.
Well, I'm not sure about that, but I thought I'd ask the question since I am up here.
Okay.
that's a good question. I do have a question or comment, and well, I'll start with a statement. We've historically been, and still are, very pleased with what you're doing, and I believe that the comments, keep doing what you're doing, is you do hit a demographic that very few of the other organizations do, and it's a wonderful event, brings a lot of people in here, and it does great work, and we appreciate it, and we want to see it continuing. But as I look at last year's reimbursements, I wonder if that has something to do with a lack of a report. It looks like you did not submit for reimbursement, which begs the question, if this was your largest tax award last year was just completely forgotten. Because we've actually gone past the date that we're supposed to request the final payment. Do you know if somebody was tasked with this? And
Once again, another question I cannot answer.
okay.
But most likely, I know that we did go through some changes in the board members, so somebody knew. Oh, I guess we just walked in. President. Can you take over?
Absolutely. We'll ask some of these questions.
Good evening. Sorry, a little late, just drove from Albuquerque, so.
No problem. Would you mind stating your name?
Yes, my name is Cruz Bustillos. I am the president of the Copper Country Cruisers for 2015.
Okay. I will ask two of the major questions, and then we may need some clarification from the others. One is that I just brought up was you were awarded $2,000 last year. You did not request for reimbursement, and we've actually already passed that date. But on a second note, which may follow suit, is the required reports that we placed on last year's reimbursements were not submitted. So there's two reports that were not submitted. Do you know why, or do you have a reason why that's the case?
That I'm aware of, the reports were submitted. Because I know we worked on them, and we did some submissions on them, and for the most current report, we also just submitted it here several weeks ago, I think, for the new, for this year's funds that are done.
Do you know who you submitted it to?
No, I don't, because I'm not the one that turned them in, but I can find out, I think.
Mr. Brown, do you know?
We haven't, these are the two people that would have received them, and neither of them have seen them. So if you could please get them to us, we'd really appreciate it.
Yes, sir, you need them tonight, or?
No, not
Not tonight.
Especially if you go home and try and dig them up somewhere.
No, we could just get them within the next, by the middle of next week.
That would be...
No problem. I can do that.
That'd be great. Councilor Bettison, please.
Thank you, Mayor. So my question follows the mayor's, which with not submitting any requests for reimbursement, one of the things that I was wondering in the presentation for this year's request is there weren't any copies of any of the advertising, and is that may that be why there was no request for reimbursement?
This year's request, there was, I believe, 7 pages of advertisement. There's some from Sunset Magazine, from the Sun News, the couple of local newspapers. I believe there's one from the Grant County Visitors publication to submit it.
So, if we talk about Sunset Magazine, it's actually a listing under clubs and organizations, but I looked and I couldn't find the actual advertisement. There is the one that the Silver City Tourism did that includes that along with some others, but for the Sunset, that's the reason why I asked the question, because the material that we have from the Sunset is clubs and organizations that are listed, and then a picture that has ads that are not related to the Copper Country Cruisers. Although it's listed in a Silver City, New Mexico True ad that was done by Silver City Tourism. So the question is did you, since there was no request for reimbursement, did you provide funding to be listed in the Silver City, New Mexico True ad by the tourism, or is it just because it's listed?
It's because it's listed. We did not submit funds. We did send a letter to them asking how much they would charge to get that put in there, and we received a notice that there was no charge for us to send them information, and that was it.
So that's not advertising that was paid for through lodger's tax. That's really what I'm requesting, because there has been no submittal for reimbursement of the $2,000 you awarded last year. And the only way to receive those funds is if you actually have used those funds to actually create advertising or to go in on a cooperative ad with Silver City Tourism.
Yes, ma'am.
So that's the reason why I'm trying to get some clarification. Okay. So that's the reason for my comment that I didn't see any ads that you yourselves had developed that were placed in anything. So I guess that's why I'm trying to figure out if that is how we didn't get any requests for reimbursement either. So
that's probably why, but I was not aware of that. This is the first year I've been involved in trying to submit the paperwork, and we pretty much did all the paperwork in about 13 hours of time that we spent that one day to get everything put in, because somewhere along the line the paper was misplaced and we had to get some additional paperwork from the office to make sure we submitted what we had.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Bustillos.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Councilor Kano.
Next, Troy Lahila, please. Mr. Brennan and Mrs. Gill. So, my question is, you asked for a pretty substantial increase, and then the Lodgers Tax Committee mentioned a concern about expanding beyond your future your funding capabilities. So I just wanted you to kind of touch on that and let us know what your position is.
As far as funding for 2016, well, we are working on hopefully national funding, with national sponsorship. I had a meeting this past week up in Durango with Verdi. We contracted with Verdi last year for our social media, and also they helped us last year try to find us national sponsorship. And we're also working with another organization led by Michael Engelman. And so that's our focus presently, is try to find some national sponsorship. You are correct. As far as local funding, we have great sponsors throughout Silver City and Grant County funding this event. But to put the money we actually need to run the entire event, we need to go outside Grant County to look for funding.
Thank you.
Councilor Bexler?
Thank you. Can I have someone, thank you, I don't have anything for this.
Thank you.
Sorry. Hey, that's good, though. It's always good if I don't ask questions, I think, sometimes. Fort Baird? I have some questions and some related to trying to clarify what the request is. Could you please state your name?
Okay,
No. There you go.
my name is Cecilia Bell, and I'm with the Fort Baird Historic Preservation Society.
Okay, thank you, Cecilia Bell. So, Cecilia, I have some questions. For clarification purposes, can you tell me if Fort Baird is a group, if you are asking for lodger's tax funding for your January membership dinner? Because that's what I read in, that's what I thought that you were asking for.
Okay, not totally, because in January of 2016, we began our total celebration of Fort Baird's 150th birthday. And there will be events that will cover all the way through. But the birthday celebration in January is going to be more than our membership dinner. We are having a speaker from Alabama come to speak on, and this is connecting projects in Silver City, to speak on the role of Frederick Remington in his artwork with the Buffalo Soldiers.
Correct, and I did read that, but it also was couched as a membership dinner.
Right.
So,
because we do that annually, Cynthia, every year. That's the January meeting, and it draws in people from Silver City, but also, if it is advertised, it draws in the people from El Paso, Tucson, and Albuquerque.
okay, and then, because it was, I have to say, it was a little bit difficult to follow what was provided.
Thank you.
So a little bit more clarification in the future would be welcomed. So, in reading it, it seemed like you were asking for porta potties for the Silver City Women's Club, as well as what you were doing out of Fort Baird.
I don't understand how that went together that way. Okay, we have a porta potty that we never have charged with lodger's tax. We pay $66 a month, except for the months that they clean. And then it goes up to $132. But it is used not only for Fort Baird events, but for all of the hikers, all of the bikers, all of the horseback riders, all of the firemen, and the sheriffs that drive around. And we have never, ever asked as a part of the lodger's tax. That's out of our money.
Okay, it's just not clear. I'm sorry. Yeah, and
you know, we thought about putting a little coin thing you have to pay to open the door, but we have not done that. They have that in Boston.
Okay. I'm sorry. I'm going to start laughing and I won't be able to stop. But, and I guess, another question is on the Fort Baird's 149th birthday. I understand from the reports that you've submitted and also from your request this year that Fort Baird Days has been canceled due to the demolition.
Right. Now, this is not something we planned, and I think everybody should know that. 2 years ago, we were told that they would be demolishing the 1920-22 hospital. We were told, first of all, by Burkle in Santa Fe that it would take 6 months.
Cecilia, if I could, And can you just please explain the 149th birthday?
Okay, so we are at a point where we do not know a date or exactly what they are going to do at Fort Beard. It could be that we can't even get into Fort Beard in September, Cynthia.
No, I know, but I'm asking about your 149th birthday celebration,
Okay.
not about the other.
Okay, it'll be the same way. We may not be able to get in August, but we are working with the town of Santa Clara to have the events at the Armory. And we want to have a picnic celebration for all of the people of Grant County that have had a meaningful experience at Fort Beard, be they a worker or an employer or a patient or somebody that's just lived in the community or has grown up at Fort Beard. Recently, we've had lots and lots of people from all over the Southwest that say, my mother worked at Fort Beard, we lived there, and we're coming back.
Great, so a few suggestions, and you've provided us with some copies of guest lists, and it would be nice to have that actually translated into numbers. There's a, which is wonderful that so many people, I mean, you have a lot of, let's say, I'm trying to think of information that people are coming back, or that people come, or what people think, or that people are staying, but you don't really have statistics which
Right.
which would be beneficial. I mean, you can take guest book logs and turn them into
Cynthia,
statistics.
that is being done right now.
Okay.
And in fact, I can bring down to Alex's office after the 1st of July a full copy that was all put together and broke down into segments. And we have a new guest book that will have all of that. And then each month it is cataloged by a volunteer. We're ready for next year.
Okay, so great. So that can be included in next year's
Right,
request.
right.
Okay, thank you. And so the only other comment is, in looking at the advertising, you're very good, like everybody else is, about putting the lodger's tax logo, with the exception of the El Paso scene. The logo in those ads are not the lodger's tax logo. And they were requested for reimbursement, and all it says is paid by lodger's tax, but...
Right, and we did not get paid for part of them either.
Well, it doesn't have the logo for the
Right.
town, and it doesn't, all it says is paid for by lodger's tax, and it doesn't say town of Silver City
Right.
or something. So,
That was
I mean, that's
our
something
mistake.
that you would need to take up with either Ann and Leanne
Right.
at a later date, but it just is, to point that out, is that to ask for reimbursement for ads that don't contain that is somewhat concerning, because that they need to contain that information.
Everything.
And I want to say that everybody's really good about doing it. They really are. There's just a few fails, and that was the one that I noticed, so.
Okay. I would like to say thank you, first of all, to all of the people of Silver City for your support. This has been a trying year to see that you're going to lose a historic site, and we need lots of your support. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. That completes the series of questions I had.
Is there any other questions? You know, as many of you in the audience can tell, it's a pretty big task that we have to go through all these proposals and try to understand them and try to make some conclusions based on them. And just like to thank the Lodgers Tax Advisory Board for all their hard work in trying to do so. For those of you that do have the handout, we had $271,760,000 worth of requests and can only award $200,000. So the advisory board had to come up with nearly $72,000 worth of cuts. So at this point, I would offer any of you in the audience to come up and try to explain and articulate anything that you want. If you have any information that you want to add and give to us, I open the floor to any one of you. That being said, Councilor Bredesen.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilor.
I move that the council go into executive session pursuant to NMSA 1978, Section 10-15-1H, for the following reasons. 6, that portion of the meeting at which a decision concerning purchases in an amount exceeding $2,500 that can be made only from one source, in that portion of the meeting at which the contents of competitive sealed proposals solicited pursuant to the Procurement Code 13-1-28 NMSA 1978 are discussed during the contract negotiation process. The actual approval of purchase of the item or final action regarding the selection of a contractor shall be made in open meeting.
Councilor Connor.
Mr. Mayor, I second that motion as stated.
We have a motion second as read into the record. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We need a roll call for this one? Sorry, roll call.
And excuse me, I need to add first a short break before we go into executive session, and need to have, Councilor Connell's nodding her head, so.
Councilor Madison?
Aye.
Councilor Amos Smith?
Aye.
Councilor Ray?
Aye.
Councilor Connor?
Aye.
Break in a minute.
We will be going into closed session after a short recess. I call this meeting back to order. We did not discuss anything that was not included in the motion going into closed session, and no decisions were made. Need a roll call.
Councilor Madison?
Aye.
Councilor Amos Smith? Councilor Ray? Councilor Connor?
Okay, back in session. You know, after hearing the recommendations from the advisory board, and even as we go into deliberations each and every year, this is a mammoth task, and I appreciate everybody who has submitted RFPs and all the work it entails to do so. And I greatly appreciate and thank the advisory board. Their recommendations, even though we seem to always change them, we would, without those recommendations, without your comments, and without your presentation, we'd be in closed session for another day or two. I can tell you that. So believe me, it's extremely valuable, and I can't express that enough. What I'd like to do is after hearing all the reading through all of these, hearing the presentation, hearing the answers to the questions and the further elaboration, and after deliberation, I would like to give my recommendation and entertain a motion. I recommend that we award Fort Baird Historic Preservation $1,500, Copper Country Cruisers $1,250, Members Regions Arts Council $34,000, Main Street Project $8,000, Grant County Rolling Stones $3,000, Silver City Art Association $5,000, Tour of the Gila $30,000, Silver City Arts and Cultural District $111,750, Southwest Festival of the Written Word $3,000, Gila River Festival, $2,500. I do not recommend awarding anything to the San Vicente artist or Zia at this point, but would recommend that the Silver City Arts and Cultural District work heavily to help with that event and work closely with Zia, and also work with the Copper Country Cruisers on furthering their work. And with that, I'll entertain a motion. Councilor Amos Smith.
Mr. Mayor, let's hope I get this one correctly here. I move to accept the recommendations as stated for proposal 14/15-2P, community promotions, in the amounts as stated by the mayor, with also 3 recommendations. The first recommendation is that applicants to include in future RFPs if they are getting money from other tourism associations or other lodgers tax contributions. And that in the future, we will continue to require biannual reports from all recipients. And that in the future, the council and the town staff will put together a workshop to go over appropriate RFP protocol and report protocol, and anyone, before they will be allowed to submit an RFP, must attend such a workshop.
Councilor Benson?
Mr. Mayor, I second the motion as stated.
We...
I apologize.
You know, I have it in my notes in, so I'd be happy to repeat as best as I can. All applicants for future RFPs include in the application if they are getting money from other tourism associations or from other sources of lodgers tax. The second, that we will continue to require 2 reports and the final report. Thank you. Yes. So 2 interim reports as well as a final report. And the third is that the council and staff will put together a workshop on RFP protocols and appropriate reporting. And any applicant who intends to submit an RFP must attend said workshop before the RFP can be submitted.
And you already got my second, right?
And you got the second from the councilor?
You already got my second, right? Okay.
We have a motion and a second as read into the record. Is there any further discussion? Councilor Bedison.
I would like to begin the discussion by stating that that we, as the mayor had indicated in his recommendation, that we would like the Silver City Arts and Cultural District to work with Zia Rights to promote that event, and also to work directly with Copper Country Cruisers to assist them in advertising and promoting their event, and ensuring that the kind of everybody just kind of works together on that. So that's why the additional funds were put there. So that's one.
On to me?
Yes, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to reiterate, so make it clear that the Arts and Cultural District, that we like what you were doing and we're expanding our request that you include us assisting others to do more like you do. I have a comment for Main Street, and that is Main Street, that the council would like to direct and request that with the monies that you will be allocated, that you focus on advertising, that you advertise the lighted Christmas parade, and that you seek alternative methods of advertising. We'd like you to reconsider the proposal for 6 days of the Taste of Downtown. That seems like a bit much. We would like to encourage you to have perhaps more attractive banners designed, and want to remind you that any kind of funding for an event coordinator may not come out of lodger's tax.
Is there any other
Yes.
questions?
Mr. Mayor.
Councilor Edison?
And the recommendation is that the Silver City Art Association work hand in hand with the San Vicente artists. We'd like to see the two groups to come together, especially the way you had described it, Ms. Duffy, so that if that could continue, and I think together it'll be a very, very strong alliance, and potentially that you can join memberships as well. That will make it a very strong arts association, which is really quite nice. That's the last recommendation that I have.
Any other comments? Councilor Amos Smith?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. One recommendation also to the Gila River Festival, and that is that you put some real emphasis with your folks that they do come and stay and eat downtown. We know that they enjoyed field tours last year. We'd like to have them supporting the downtown of Silver City.
Councilor Edison?
Sorry, Mr. Mayor. I want to sort of piggyback on what Councilor Amos Smith said, to encourage folks to stay overnight in Silver City, so that we can, heads and beds is critical, and we'd like to see folks staying here overnight and enjoying our downtown. It seems that the attendees to that festival kind of follow along with several other groups that come into town, and the downtown and that area seem to be a nice place and something that many of them already are spending time in. So, thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Any further comments, discussion? We have a motion and a second as read into the record. Do we need a roll call? Roll call.
Councilor Edison?
Aye.
Councilor Amos Smith? Aye. Councilor Ray?
Aye.
Councilor Connick?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilor Edison?
I move to adjourn. Say something.
Say something, Councilor Ray. Seconded, all right.
Councilor Ray seconded.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned.